Well, it says we're broadcasting. So this is Bruce Rawles speaking with Susan Dugan. And Susan recently went to the Foundation for A Course in Miracles in Temecula, California, and attended an academy class there. And why don't we just dive right in, and maybe you can share what that experience was about for you.
Sure. Well, it was the July Academy, which it was the last of the week-long academies that they are doing. They're going to, still do the 3 days, and they have a lot of exciting topics lined up for the next, throughout the end of the year, and they'll keep going with those. But this one the topic was on training for goodness, which was it was a academy that Ken had come up with the topic for prior, before he became ill, and so and I'm no expert at all on, there was a Confucius quote that it was sort of culled from, and it was something to the effect of the content of it was along the lines of man is inherently evil and needs to train for goodness. So it was that kind of thought,
Uh-huh.
and the course, the foundation staff was saying would concur with that, in the sense that we believe, anyway, the ego thought system believes that we are inherently rotten to the core, but we try to conceal that, and because we believe that we pulled off the tiny mad idea of separating from God, destroying real love, destroying God, and we are walking around acting out the results of that terrifying belief. And so we either are trying constantly to show the face of innocence, and try to pretend that we're kind and pretend that we're good, to try to convince ourselves of that, or we're trying to find a scapegoat for the guilt that we feel within in our relationships, and someone else, pointing a finger externally at some person, place, or thing, or situation that is the cause of our distress in any given moment. So it was just another way of really looking at what we do, and the idea that we have two inner teachers, we have two choices in any moment, and that really the practice of forgiveness, the training for goodness, if you will, is the practice of forgiveness, is this vigilance that we're developing, in which we use everything in our life to learn a different way of living in the world, and to become familiar with a different inner teacher, and that will undo our belief in the idea that anyone's guilty here, and that I have to constantly defend myself through these projections on others, and or through trying to fill myself up from the outside. So it was a wonderful. The staff was great, and there's it was Laurel Reeves and Jeffrey Siebert and Rosemarie Losasso. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they were all they're so good, and they were so eloquent, and so as they were in the March Academy as well, and really reflecting their own passion for this material, and their own having devoted themselves and collaborated with Ken over so many years, and then also really having to live this as students in the classroom of their lives, and their own undoing, sharing some of their own experiences around what this looks like in daily life. And it was one of the things that I thought was cute that they did in this, was they, instead of they did a little spin on the two inner teachers that we have, the ego and the Holy Spirit. Instead, they were referring to them as the two inner trainers that we have. That the ego is the personal trainer, because it's always about me, and the Holy Spirit, Jesus, is the impersonal trainer, because it's got to include everybody, and that love is always available for us, but we can't have a personal relationship with Jesus as our trainer. You know, that's it is required for us to feel the love that we believe we're lacking, and to really develop that intimacy. We've got to include everyone in that love, and I mean that's what he's teaching us to do, and that's why we can't do this by ourselves, because you know, our way is always about the personal path, and you know, what does this mean for me, and trying to get my needs met, and trying to get you know, to defend my story and my point of view and my misperceptions, and the only way that that can be undone is turning to this other teacher in the mind. So that you know, those were kind of some of the themes, and like they did in the March Academy, and really Ken always did, they really emphasized very strongly, and we can talk more about that as we go along, but the practice of, you know, really not trying to do this by ourselves. We can't do this by ourselves, and we must really cultivate an intimacy with Jesus, you know, our inner teacher, our inner trainer, and that's really a moment-to-moment practice throughout our day. That's what it means to be a pupil of Jesus. That's what it means to be, you know, looking at our lives as a classroom. We can't be in school as a student unless we have a teacher, and you know, we forget that. We try to do this with the ego, with you know, really poor results, to say the least. So,
yeah.
So you can jump in anywhere there, but
you know, that's great. That's great. I appreciate that overview, and the you know, certainly the John Wayne ethic of I'll do it myself, you know, kind of thing. That's
and very American.
Yeah, it's not only a Western paradigm, but certainly you know, in our country in particular, that whole notion of, oh, I'll just figure it out myself, and
right.
With
and
sometimes disastrous results. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the idea that we think we know what we need or what's in our own best interests, you know, the Course is always kind of pounds away at the fact that we really know nothing, and you know, we kind of gloss over those passages, but you know, I mean, our way has gotten us into, is based on lies, and has gotten us into, it is the cause of our suffering, and so we really have to come again and again and again usually through our pain, our realization that this is painful, what we're doing, to open to the idea that, you know, there has to be another way, and in my way, I don't know what this means. I don't know what's in my best interests, and you know, we believe as Course students too that sometimes when we're stuck and we're really resistant and we're really it feels very harsh and all of that, you know, we've forgotten that we have a teacher, that we can at least remind ourselves that the love is still there, and entertain the possibility that maybe the reason that I'm feeling so you know, upset right now, anxious about this, is because you know, I'm so resistant to love. There's only one cause of any problem, and that is you know, my decision in the mind to push love away, and the only remedy is to, even when we're not feeling it, remind ourselves that the love is still there and available to us, and if I'm experiencing this, it's because a part of me I'm not in touch with chose it, and that's because I'm afraid of love. That's all. Mm-hmm. You know, and then stop. I mean, it's not, we don't have to beat ourselves up, and maybe we're really ready to let a little more guilt go, and that's why it seems so bleak. You know, yeah. Because as we become more aware of the choice, it feels very bereft when we're not choosing for that love. It does to me, and you know, so you know, it may not be a bad sign at all that we're feeling this more.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of things come to mind. One is the earlier statement. A favorite quote is something to the effect of, "You're still convinced that your understanding is a powerful contribution to the truth and makes it what it is." and yeah, like you say, there's so many places that I think are actually humorous where you know, the author of our beloved Blue Book essentially puts on the I don't know, Rodney Dangerfield or you know, that kind of celebrity roast of the ego kind of thing going on, where it basically pokes fun, but in the most ultimately kind way of
Right.
our identification with this personal self and our like you say, our personal trainer
Right.
that doesn't have our best interests at heart, and basically tries to remind us that we really are miserable here, but we're so far down the ladder and so deep into this sleep state that we unimaginably wonderful, but we have to see the contrast, and then the other thing that came to mind is that contrast is
Right.
so important to recognize. I think in one of my favorite parts in a paragraph that could otherwise be really discouraging in the development of trust, that fifth stage where and we go through all those stages all the time, is I think Ken has said
Many are right. Yeah.
we kind of go back and forth, but the fifth one is where we realize that we can kind of make it work, and the course teachings, and then we realize, oh, now we're not as far along as we think we are, because we really have to let go of the personal, and this could be impossible, and I think it says something to the effect of, this could be impossible, we're not every step so heavily reinforced. And I think there's
Right.
where that contrast comes in, is if we look at the moment to moment feeling that we have, and recognize that each moment is a perfect classroom opportunity to look at how we're feeling and what we've identified with, and to ask ourselves, if we're not feeling perfectly peaceful, then we've still dropped the hand of our inner teacher and picked up a sword, which means we've got our personal trainer's weapon in hand. And it's
Right.
like, look down, it's like, oh, there's that sword again, damn it.
Right.
I think I have to defend something here, so yeah.
Yeah, and the development of trust. That's right. We come up. We're Rosemary uses the term head-on collision of the ego thought system with what I think I am,
Yeah.
or where I want to go, what Jesus is saying, the gap between what Jesus is saying and the ego thought system, which is me, and so what does that mean for me? And that's bound to be, very, very unsettling at best to the part of us that thinks there's a me,
Right.
and that thinks that it's about me, and thinks that when we first often come to the course, and for a long time afterwards, we can believe that we can sort of delude ourselves and dissociate a lot of what the course is saying, and be able to think, oh, this is just wonderful, and now I'm going to forgive all of the nutcases out there, and I'm going to feel more peaceful, and my life is going to get better, and I'm going to be able to have all this happiness and serenity in my life, and of course eventually that we're going to come up against the realization that that what's happening outside me is not part of the equation, and that everything here, including the self I am, is a defense against love, and I can't sustainably experience peace and love until I'm really ready to let that go.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm learning that that's what I want through this practice, and I'm experimenting with it, kind of, and allowing glimpses of it, and trusting Jesus to go there when I'm really, and as you were saying, my pain is my great motivator,
Right.
because that's when I know that there's no way, I'm really beginning to see that there's no way out of that pain in the world. There's nothing that can be changed in my life that's going to make me feel any better. That the answer has to be in the mind, and so we start dipping our toes in the mind, in the right mind, and we do feel that return, that sense of completion and fulfillment of everything we really have wanted, the real love that we believe is missing, and the innocence. But then we become, what does that mean for me? And so, we become afraid of love again, and we go running back to the ego, but we're no longer, we can no longer find our belief is in the ego's promises has been shaken through this practice, and so that's a hard place to be, because we're kind of between a rock and a hard place. We're not at the top of the ladder, but we're not at the bottom either, and we've lost our faith in the imaginary world. And so so Jesus explains all this in the Course, but he also tells us, you're right, we're so heavily supported in this, and I am so close to you, we cannot fail, he says in the introduction to the second part of the workbook. And I love that there's so many passages where he talks about this, and the epilogue to the workbook is one that is so powerful. And there's many other places where in the workbook and in the text where he really gives us these pep talks. But ultimately, we cannot fail, and we have to remember that in our dark times, that's who's more likely to be right, Jesus or me, and we're learning at least that we're wrong, that our way doesn't work.
Let me think about that one. Who's more likely to be right?
Well, and of course, it depends which trainer we're listening to, right?
Right.
The
Yeah,
answer
exactly.
to that. But our experience is showing us this vigilance for how do I feel in every moment, and questioning the cause in every time we are anything, as you said, less than feeling anything less than loving, anything less than peaceful about what's happening, anything less than compassionate about others, toward others, then we know that we at least we know there's a process that we have to question, that we have to say, that it's not, I'm not anxious, I'm not sick, I'm not furious for the reason I think, and there is a choice. I have a way to look at this, and I have another teacher, and even if I'm not ready to avail myself, accept that other point of view completely, and return to peace. I'm not feeling it. I've asked for it, and I'm not feeling it. I can at least deny the denial of truth by saying, this is not the cause. And I'm just afraid, the reason I'm not feeling at peace is I just became afraid of love again, and I'll feel better when my fear subsides. We don't have to fight ourselves with this. But invoking, cultivating, reminding ourselves of that presence of Jesus, of that unconditional love for all in our mind, that it's still there, and that, as you say, we're so heavily supported that we cannot fail at this, and we're not doing anything wrong, and in fact it may again be a real step forward, that we're feeling this resistance right now. Maybe we're ready to let a little more go of this hidden guilt in the mind, which ultimately is what we want to do. And so, to just in any way that you can remind yourself that we have that support, the love is still there, and it's not going to, the process that's led us this far is not going to fail us now, as Ken said, repeatedly. And he didn't lie, so I try to remember that.
Yeah, not too much
I lie
fibbing.
a lot, but he doesn't lie.
Not too much fibbing going on there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, the points you bring up about trying to fix the dream, I think takes so many different forms, because it seems like there's always a few little holdout areas that we think, oh well, I'll and the ego's so sneaky about it. It's thinking, oh well, I'll just make this part of my life work here, and then I'll get back to my awakening process, or spiritual undoing, or whatever we want to call the our forgiveness classroom. But it's really we get so many times have it backwards and think that as soon as the externals are in place, then I'll be able to be more mindful, and forgetting that it's just the opposite. And another thing that you said, it was as we kind of become more aware, we're sort of dropping the shields of oblivion, and I think of it as kind of like peeling off tape, that we've masked certain areas of our life that we didn't want to look at.
Yeah.
And so it's a little painful to do that, because we see things as like, oh yeah, I was projecting this, and that's why I was getting back this painful result. And again, like you say, the externals may not change at all. And I think, like Gary's teachers say, you have to keep on forgiving, even if you go to the work every day and the same people still show up.
Right. Well, exactly. It's not about the externals.
Right. Right.
So it's only about which teacher I'm going to be experiencing it with, which means, you know, that will show that I'll know if I'm peaceful, if I'm feeling compassion for everyone involved, that I've chosen Jesus as my teacher. We usually, you know, don't know which teacher we've chosen until we experience the results of our choice, and you know, we get more conscious as this process goes on over time.
Right.
But as you said, there's still areas that are very invisible to us, and I mean, from in my experience, I sort of think of it as anything that is opposing that growing awareness of the love in my mind, of the innocence and compassion for all, is going to reveal itself. And so, you know, you may have things that from your past that you thought were, you know, you were done with, that come up. You may have things in your body that seem to happen. You know, areas, again, we will be shown through this process how much we don't want to give it all up, you know, and very much part of our investment in the story of me is painful. You know, it's about it's some kind of grievance, it's some kind of issue that, you know, in which we want to point a finger at something out there, or something, you know, even something in our own body is usually pointing a finger at even if it's only at our idea of our, you know, the unhappy accident of my DNA. So it's often very much more personal than that. But that isn't to say, again, that this is just part of the process. Anything that's opposing our goal is going to come up to be looked at. I mean, that's how we let it go. It needs to come out of concealment, and we don't know what's down there, you know, really, until we experience it, and we will. You know, the healing that happens is in the mind. It's another opportunity for us to heal our mind about it, about the ego's insistence that, you know, that the problem needs to be solved out there at the level that it doesn't exist.
Right.
You know, the only problem is in the mind, and if I heal my mind about it, this very same thing, you know, the relationship, the problem in my body, the problem in the greater seeming world will not, you know, I'll realize that nothing has the power to take my peace away, and I'll be able to respond with kindness to everyone involved. I mean, we don't know our own atonement paths, and we don't know what's in our, you know, again, what's in our best interest. And people can be very, very ill, and actually that's something that they've chosen to, you know, to completely learn that healing is of the mind. I mean, we don't know what that's going to look like. People may be in very, very horribly abusive situations, and still be able to learn that they can be peaceful, they can be safe, that there's still, you know, that nothing, that they will learn that peace that passeth all understanding, and that it's not of this world. So it's not about, you know, that's why this course will never be popular, Bruce. Not ever.
Yeah, I think I've kind of resigned myself to that fact, and recognized that may not be, you know, something
Not a popular message.
that the 7 billion of our fellow plus inhabitants are going to, you know, embrace openly. But that's okay, because I mean, the beauty of it is that we're all already home, and I think that's helpful to remember that and not lose sight of that. That I think that helps me in any way to remember that I can be completely inclusive and to generalize, and to realize that if I leave anybody out in any kind of comparative or evaluative way, I'm making some aspect of my dream projection more important or different than some other part, and that helps me to remember to look at it all as, you know, a massive dream that I made up, that I can choose to forgive, and again, only with the help of that inner teacher, of you know, the transpersonal, impersonal teacher, the coach, the counsel, whatever, that is able to help me see that, and
Right.
that royal road, you know, of looking at the the daytime dream is really so powerful because that forgiveness classroom has everything we need in it. I mean, every single ingredient from split second to split second is there for us to look at and say, ah, that's what I need to not make a big deal about and not make differences important about right now, and that's what I can forgive myself for at each moment, and when I
And
remember to do it.
yeah, no, and I think, and one of the staff members, I'm not sure which one, but made the point that, again, we can't really shout down the ego with the metaphysics of the Course.
Right.
We need to just say, this is a dream, this is an illusion, it's not real, I don't have to, I mean, that's skipping the step of feeling it.
Right.
And we have to allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling, but that's why it's so important to have to have Jesus in there, because if it's feeling harsh, if it's feeling like sacrifice, if it's feeling anything but again, but peaceful and gentle, and we're feeling anything but gentleness and patience with the process and all of that, then we really are trying to shout it down, and that it doesn't work. And so we have to allow ourselves to really experience. I mean, ask for at the beginning of our day. Laura was very good at talking about just really throughout the day, beginning in the Rules for Decision talks about that, and how does a teacher of God spend his day, and the manual talks about that. But really, beginning your day with, I want an experience of your love. I want to see everything. I want you with me every moment. I want, invite the presence of that giant heart into your experience, and ask to experience that. And throughout your day, to take 5 with Jesus or something. I mean, to just, to kind of just build it into your day to, where am I right now? What do I, Ken spoke about that so beautifully in his CD set, Forgiveness Now. But, for every moment, checking in. And it's really checking in with that inner love, because until we are at the, in the real world and know that we are that love, we do need to we do need to kind of invoke that presence that we believe is that we severed from. We have to actively, that part of this process is active, and to really, especially in our fear, cultivate that love, and to not question, because we don't immediately return to peace, the power of what we're doing. The ego would love to have us believe that this isn't working, and look, you're still miserable and all of that. Well, part of this process is to see of Jesus as our teacher, is for him to show us, to get us to look at and be honest with and own how miserable we secretly want to be, because we wouldn't be feeling miserable unless there was a part of us that really wanted to. And one of the things that they said too that was really it just struck me was, we are enormously, the enormous lengths and unconscious lengths that we will go to and suffering that we will endure to preserve the idea of me, and to preserve the idea of an innocent me. But really what we're trying to preserve right behind that is a guilty me, because that's what keeps the idea of me going. And so, our threshold for pain is quite staggering. and that's going to be, we're finally going to be able to see it ultimately at the end of this journey, that's, in every circumstance, I no longer want or need this. And it's not what I really want. But this is a process, and along the way, that presence of Jesus will be really what helps us get through it. There's really no other way but through it, but it will be gentle if we can keep reminding ourselves and invoking the presence of that gentleness, which you could use Ken as a symbol of too. It's just a symbol, but it's that, this can be a gentle process, and even when it's painful, we can be gentle and forgiving of ourselves, and just remind ourselves we just became afraid of love again, And the remedy for that is to turn back to the love, call in the love. I turned away from it, and I need to turn back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And we we turn away from it in so many different ways, and all it takes is just that one little click where we have a lucid moment and say, "Oh, I don't want this pain anymore," and that breaks down the resistance and at that moment. And
right. And it may take a while, of course.
Yeah.
Feel it again, because again, it's unconscious, and our fear of this goes so much deeper than we have any awareness of.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you work with this course for a while, you're going to realize that, because there's, you say you want the peace of God, but if we wanted the peace of God, we'd have the peace of God. So it shows
we wouldn't have come here, right?
Yeah, we're constantly at war with our, right, exactly. Ken used to say, peaceful people don't come here.
Right.
People don't come here,
Being born was a mistake.
Right. We've come here to prove the error real.
Yeah.
And the error has had painful results. And there's really no, in this world, even if you're temporarily getting what you think you want, as we all know, it doesn't last. It doesn't, and it never gets to the feeling the lack that we feel within, the horrible sense, and to in any way lessening the guilt that we feel within all the time. That over believing that we really did destroy love, and of course our experience here, how even if it's we have moments that are pleasurable, it's never going to end well as a body. And so that was the program. And so it was really a very again powerful workshop. I'm so impressed with. I know you recently went out and attended some of the weekly classes. They're spent the which they are ongoing. They're taking a break for the summer right now, but I've never done that. I'm hoping to do that next time. Now that they're doing the 3-day classes, but I couldn't encourage people more strongly if they have not been to Temecula, or even if they've been only when Ken was there, to keep visiting, or to come out for the first time, or to keep coming out, because the work, Ken is still there. The presence of that the power that he the powerful gentleness and healing message of Ken's work is still there, and the staff is doing just an awesome job of conveying it and really demonstrating it in their teaching. And so, I'm writing some profiles of each of the staff members right now to try to help. They've been so behind the scenes in many ways, and people don't really necessarily know who they are and what their own, in all cases with the 3 of them, they've all worked with Ken for, at least a couple decades, mm-hmm. and spent so much time really giving very selflessly to the foundation and to this work, and really learning, they're experiencing their own undoing and through that work, and of course in their own personal classrooms as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that I hope that people will get a sense of who each of them are, so that they'll see that they have so much to offer, because it's a great experience being there. It really is. It's and the immersion quality of it too. You can't quite dissociate as easily as you can when you're listening to Ken and multitasking. When you're listening to his CD, I find that I'm always, doing 3 million other things while I'm listening. But it's, the experience of being there is, and with that intention, I think, as well. There's a growing awareness that, Ken, where would he go? He's still there. The power of that work and the love of his presence is still there. It was never it was never in him and not in us, and we're growing into that understanding. But it's terrifying to us too. And so this is a way I think that can help you take another step in that direction.
Just yeah, I second that endorsement as well. I like I say, I only set foot in the place one day so far, and I
Right.
came
Yeah.
away completely with that same experience of the dedication and the warmth and the enthusiasm and the insights of the not only facilitators but everyone there participating, and it was
Yes, and all
really
the
just a
staff
moment.
behind the scenes too. I mean,
Yeah.
Ken called it the staff and orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
And every part was, they were really encouraged to look at their own ideas of specialness through many, many workshops with him and conversations and personal work with him. And so, they really were our demonstrations of making that a goal of, that it's not about me. It's about the, it's about the work. It's about the forgiveness. It's about the practice. It's about learning together and healing our mind. And so it's quite inspiring to witness and to be, feel a little bit of a part of while you're there.
Mm-hmm. And anything else that you recall being discussed or conversations that you might have left with that?
Well, I mean, they really
you covered a lot already.
yeah. I mean, it was, they did talk a little bit more about purpose and, again, that there's only a message that Ken was repeating a lot in the last couple of years, the way he was putting it, of, that we only have two purposes, and one is to root ourselves more deeply in the dream, and the other is to take another step toward awakening. And really, it's that idea of making the purpose of my life is not about, although, he encouraged us to be normal and to go about doing the things that we have to do in the world, because obviously we all do have things to do in the world, and it's not, of course, it's not asking us to deny that or to deny the issues of our own body, but to look at the purpose, what my purpose is, and if my purpose is that I want to awaken, then I need to be in constant touch again with that teacher who can teach me that, and which means being vigilant for catching myself wanting to do it with the ego, wanting to make it special, wanting to make it, all of the various traps that the ego falls into, and being very vigilant for the sneaky little grievances that do sneak in, and all those differences you were talking about that we notice and make important. And we're really just asked to pay a lot of attention with this constant attention, and remind ourselves of our goal, that we are going home. I'm not going to, this I can't be scared away from this. I can't scare myself away from this. I'm so heavily supported. There's a part of me that, in my mind, that, it's not going to fail me, that has told us that we cannot fail, that we all made it home. And, I can avail myself more quickly of that comforting awareness through this practice. And so this is what I do. This is the point of my life. It is a whole different orientation than the world's, and but it's also a very, it's also like something we can win in the end. We can't win, but you know what I mean. It's a win-win.
Right. It's not only achievable, it's inevitable.
Much better way of putting it.
Yeah,
it's achievable, and because we're so heavily supported, and we're not doing it by ourselves, and as we work with it, we will have more and more experiences of, transformation within our own frightened mind, and really begin to see that it's not, it was never about the other person. It was never about the warring factions out there. That the only warring faction is within the mind, and there's just one special relationship, and that's my relationship with the ego, and just one holy relationship, and that's this relationship with real love that is the new purpose of, is my teacher. And I love the idea that Jesus has never flunked anyone. Never flunked a student yet, so as much as I keep trying.
I guess if you have infinite patience, you have immediate results, right?
Right. Well, yeah. Well, it is the patience that, that's another clue, is when we're feeling very impatient with this process. Then that's, that clearly it shows us that we've chosen the personal trainer. And it's there is no, I mean, that's a fine line too, because it's a fine line between indulging the ego and beating ourselves up with it. We want to not also use that as an excuse for delaying. And because delay, we're learning at this point, at least I know now, that delay is not in my best interests. It's just delaying my pain. Yeah. And if I'm delaying, it's a choice. It's because I'm afraid of love again. I know the reason, and we just have to name it. That's, be honest about it. It's okay, but I'm not ready to let all this go yet, and I will be someday, and if I just keep practicing this. So yeah.
And that vigilance seems like it often takes the form of just being willing to look at moment to moment what's going on and what the ego's purpose for it is, and then recognizing that's not in our best interest, and to let go of that. And it seems like that's at the heart of forgiveness, and being willing to just say, yeah, that never got me anywhere. I think I could try the Holy Spirit's alternative, and and then recognize how many times we've all kept the masking tape on the control panel, and it's just a steady peeling process of peeling that off. And the other day I was thinking about how when I first read the course in the mid-'80s, and there were whole major theoretical areas that I just zoned out on. I was just oblivious to major concepts that were there, and I really took going back and rereading it after a significant hiatus of study and application that I realized, oh gosh, I really wasn't ready for that. And it's okay to forgive yourself for however long we want to take. And as you say, those delays are just more of really postponing the happiness and the love that really awaits us, and that it's non-specific. It has nothing to do with anything personal or that you can point a finger at or put a label on or anything.
Right, and maybe I am exactly where I need to be right now. I mean, just we can't again move any faster with this than our fear will allow, and so to work with it, to try to work with it gently again, and that can only be done by really by really reminding yourself that love is still right there, and asking for an experience of it. Laurel really emphasized that. I mean, they all did. Rosemary did. Jeff did. Really asking for that experience. The not trying to do it by yourself. It's asking Jesus to help us with everything. Meaning, it's not really helping us with the specifics, but being in dialogue with him about everything specifically that seems to be happening, and asking for help with that, because we're terrified, or we're just so anxious or depressed or whatever's going on. Then we need to specifically look at the specifics with him of what we think the problem is, before we can get to the abstract, and so we can't really skip that either. We have to just, it's really that honesty. I think that's required of, this is the way, it looks this way to me, and I forgot that I set it up. So help me to see this, and help me to see that I really, I can forgive myself. I'm not bad. I'm not doing anything wrong. There is no sin in this, because that's what usually happens, is we start to, the ego sneaks in through the back door, and we make it a problem. We make it sinful, our very practice with the Course, and that causes people to deny what they're feeling, and then we're right back in it again. It's just now we're trying to prove that everything that the Course is making my life great, and what Course, what life.
What theater.
right, exactly.
Yeah, there's sort of metaphorically we have to just back up, and the only way we can really back up is by picking up the hand of our inner teacher again,
We have to go to him. We can't.
and to get above the battlefield, or back up far enough to where we
Right,
see the edges of the theater, the screen, and realize, oh, that's right, this is a projected movie, and there's really one pixel on that vast screen is no better or different than any other pixel, and or any story that appears to be playing on that screen is no better or worse than any other story, and it's
right,
all the same dream drama, and I can afford to have a gentle inner laugh about it, but only when I am willing to look at all the specifics, and from the vantage point of that inner teacher. Yeah.
right. And that ultimately that smile will return as a result of this, but that sure
Right.
isn't where we start. We can't
No.
just
Oh no. Oh no.
smile with
No.
we don't really know what it means to be gentle.
Right.
So we have to, because everything is about defend and attack in the ego thought system. So when we're caught in it, we can't. We have to have a symbol, a presence that's outside it that we can turn to,
Right.
and that will help us reconnect with it, because there's nothing here to connect with that's not at least in the dream that is going to bring us any peace.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that basically, there's much more said, and that's just kind of an overview from some of the things, that a few of the concepts that jumped out at me, and again, and probably they were not so much concepts again as really the importance of living this, the importance of the experience, the importance of remembering that we're in school, and that we have a teacher that can teach us everything we want, and allow the undoing of all of the blocks that we have erected to keep that love away. So that's kind of what I would say.
Nice. That's very helpful. Very helpful. Yeah. Sounds like a lot of not just great information, but great demonstration of.
Oh yeah.
Of,
And, again, I would really encourage people to check out the schedule at the Foundation's website, and it's under Temecula schedule at the Foundation for A Course in Miracles website, and they're scheduled out through the end of the year, and there's descriptions of the topics and so forth. So I know there's one coming up in August. I'm not sure the date, but I think it's probably mid-August. But they can find that out there, and so yeah, they're lined up, and lots of good topics out there. And it really doesn't matter, just like with Ken, what the description of the workbook is. You're going to hear, or what the description of the workshop is. You're going to, it's all good. It's all going to be extremely helpful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So.
One more comment that kind of reminds me of something in one of the audios I was listening to from Ken, where he talks about when he first got his hands on the writings that Helen did for the psychotherapy pamphlet, and he thought it was going to be about psychotherapy, and then he realized, no, it's just the same material, just packaged with a different orientation. And it's not that he was disappointed, but he was like sort of slightly surprised that it would be so similar in terms of content, not necessarily the form. But again, that's the same thing with what he's shared over the years, is from all the things I've listened to and read and watched. It's like, yeah, it's the same stuff, but it comes out from
solution, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it comes from all these different angles, but eventually it starts soaking in and realize, yeah, this makes sense, and yes, I need to continue to practice this and more deeply, and keep pulling away those blocks, and looking at the things that I wasn't ready for at the time, and deepening that generalization and that practice.
And the good thing is we don't have to do anything. It will just come up.
Yes. We have very profoundly perfect scripts.
Yeah. So there's pop quizzes all over the place.
yeah, that's for sure.
We don't have to study or prepare. It'll be there.
Exactly.
Yeah. But so is that good? Well, yeah.
Yeah. I know you've got
Yeah.
a schedule you need to attend to, and I do as well. So anyway, thank you for taking the time to share with me about your experience at
Always a pleasure.
FACIM, Foundation for a Course in Miracles, in Temecula, California, and your recent trip there, and great stuff. So anyway, look forward to doing more. I've been talking with Susan Dugan. This is Bruce Rawles, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce.